5 goals. Not one shot faced. In a monsoon, somewhere between a training session and a fever dream, Barcelona turned Daegu into a very polite puddle. It was as if Daegu politely asked to be dismantled, and Barcelona said of course, with the efficiency of a surgeon and the boredom of a tax auditor. Now look, preseason matches are supposed to be dull, disjointed, experimental. A chance to see which academy kid can survive a pass from Frenkie de Jong without melting into a fine powder. But this one was theater. Damp, glistening, one-sided theater with a rotating cast of tormentors. It was 5-0. Could have been 8. Could have been 10. Could have been a moment for Daegu to check if they're still legally allowed to field a football team. Barcelona looked like they'd shown up just to stretch their legs, and instead found themselves caught in an accidental symphony of goals. Let's just start with the feeling of it. You ever watch a team take the pitch, and within 10 seconds think, oh, these guys are going to need a priest? That was Daegu. I don't know what the game plan was, but it looked like it got washed away in the opening drizzle. And I do mean drizzle, rain that turned into a downpour that turned into something biblical. Barcelona didn't care. They passed around puddles, passed through the press, passed time like they were doing this out of courtesy. Gavi was outrageous, like he had some kind of personal vendetta against the net. His second goal? That wasn't a finish. That was a thesis. And Lamine Yamal? He may not have scored, but he played like the rain was optional. Just slalomed through defenders as if he'd memorized every drop of water on the pitch and used them to his advantage. And then came Rashford, the man on loan, the Premier League export, wearing a Barcelona kit like it was stitched with destiny and confusion. I mean, who decided this should happen? Why is this working? He comes on, dribbles with swagger, bangs one in from the edge of the box like he's been here since La Masia. That's not normal. It should not be that easy to teleport into a system and look that seamless. But Rashford, with that smile like he knows something we don't, made it look like a demo reel. You can almost hear Manchester United fans sobbing into their retro scarves. The fifth goal wasn't just a goal. It was an exhale. Like Barcelona had finally had enough of toying around and decided to casually close the book. Let's not pretend Daegu were awful. They were just present. Physically. Mentally, they looked like they were still downloading the update. Their press evaporated. Their midfield lost the will to press sprint. Their backline looked like they were trying to interpret art. Watching Barcelona move through them was like watching a school of fish try to stop a speedboat. And the crowd, oh, bless them. They clapped for the talent. They gasped for the flicks. They may have booed their own team at some point, but mostly they stood in awe. It wasn't a contest. It was a spectacle. They knew it. We knew it. Even Hansi Flick probably smirked behind his usual grimace. But here's the surreal part. Barcelona didn't even celebrate most of the goals like they mattered. No dog pile. No shirt over the head. Just polite applause and back to business. As if they were trying to finish the game early and get back to the hotel buffet before the kimchi ran out. The most dangerous thing about this Barcelona side isn't the firepower. It's the coldness. The joyless, surgical, don't make us do this to you calm they operate with. They're not celebrating. They're calculating. And when your fifth goal is met with the same expression as a customer service email, you know you're in trouble. This wasn't a friendly. This was an announcement. Rashford's goal might as well have come with a press release. Gavi's double? That's a resume booster. And somewhere Dani Olmo just casually popped up with an assist like he was reminding everyone he's still here. So what did we learn? Not much, maybe. Barcelona are good. You knew that. Daegu are not. That was pretty obvious too. But watching this match was like watching a dress rehearsal that got wildly out of hand. Everyone played their role. The understudies took the stage. The main actors waved to the audience and moonwalked off with a standing ovation. And the rain? The rain made it better. Because if you're going to get humiliated at home by a super club, you might as well be soaking wet while it happens. Let's rewind the tape to the beginning, and I do mean all the way back to those opening chaotic minutes, where Daegu still believed. That brave, naive belief, like a dog barking at a thunderstorm. There was a kind of hopeful delusion in those early passes, those occasional forays forward. And then the world turned. It started like so many Barcelona games do. A loose rhythm, a few patient touches, and then whiplash. The moment Gavi pounced on that first chance in the 21st minute, set up so slyly by Lamine Yamal, it was like the match got a plot twist. Not a jump scare. More like realizing halfway through dinner that you're on a date with a serial overachiever. Gavi's strike wasn't just about scoring, it was about setting the tone. Hit low and hard from the edge, precise like a guided missile, as if he knew the keeper would be reaching for it in slow motion. That goal opened the floodgates, not just literally considering the rain, but psychologically. Daegu looked up and realized they'd just been punched by a teenager with a vendetta. And from there, the flow didn't just tilt Barcelona's way, it got yanked violently. Lewandowski's first goal was classic him, but also something different. He'd already had one saved from close range, a gentle reminder that even cyborgs need warm-ups. But when Gerard Martin, yes, that Martin, who looked like he'd just graduated from high school gym class, pinged in a smart cross, Lewandowski ghosted between defenders like a rumor and slotted it home with all the menace of a man folding laundry. It was so calm, so intentional, so tired. Like even he was wondering how he ended up in South Korea, humiliating local defenders on a Monday. That second goal in the 27th minute changed the temperature. Not just in the stadium, but in Daegu's heads. You could see the moment it hit them. Oh, we can't stop this. And yet, Daegu tried to rally. Chisinha, bless him, ran into people bravely. Giovanni tried a speculative shot that flew so high it might still be orbiting. There were a few moments, isolated, flickering moments, when Daegu passed the ball forward and the crowd made noises. Not because they thought it would lead to a goal, just because movement was happening in the general direction of hope. Meanwhile, Barcelona were painting. Lamine Yamal decided to take on defenders just for sport. Every touch, every shimmy, it was like watching someone browse a menu of humiliations. His left foot was working overtime, curling shots from distance, darting between legs like a lab experiment in balance and body control. One particular shot around the 37th minute forced a low save from the Daegu keeper, who, by the way, deserves hazard pay. Let's not forget the 23rd minute miss by Rafinha, a reminder that sometimes even Barcelona gets tired of scoring. Yamal had handed him a peach of a cross, you could almost see the pixels on it, and Rafinha blazed it wide like he was trying to hit a cameraman on purpose. But that was fine, because the third goal came just before halftime, and it was the kind of moment that makes you question your eyesight. Gavi again, of course. This time, it was Koundé threading a razor-sharp through ball from the right, not some aimless cross, but a calculated slice through the defense. Gavi took it in stride like the ball owed him money, and then, from the tightest of angles, with the keeper rushing out, he didn't smash it, he lifted it. A little chip. Soft, arrogant, perfect. Over the keeper and into the far side netting like it had RSVP'd. It wasn't a shot, it was a wink. 3-0 at the break. And it wasn't just the goals. It was the vibe. The inevitability. The way Barcelona passed in triangles so fast, it looked like they were trying to unlock a cheat code. Every flick, every run, every 1-2, it had weight, meaning. And Daegu were left staring at each other like a group of unpaid interns being asked to stop an avalanche with a rake. Even the crowd, soaked and blinking under the stadium lights, looked conflicted. They wanted more goals, but they also wanted mercy. Like someone watching a magician pull rabbit after rabbit from a hat and wondering when it turns into a horror movie. And then halftime came. Daegu trudged off like a team on a forced march. Barcelona? They just strolled. Flick probably didn't even need to say anything. Maybe he just showed them a mirror and let them soak in their own smug reflections. That first half wasn't just domination. It was a seminar. Barcelona didn't just outplay Daegu. They unwrote them. Like they erased them from the game in real time. And then came the second half. A completely new Barcelona. Literally. 11 changes. As if Flick looked at the scoreboard, looked at the weather, and said, all right, let's give the reserves a run before they dissolve in the rain. But here's the twist. It didn't slow down. If anything, it got worse for Daegu. The fresh 11 came out like a sequel you didn't ask for, but somehow hits harder. Rashford steps on, Olmo steps on, Pistonson, Eric Garcia. I mean, come on. That's not a rotation. That's a threat. Flick basically spun a roulette wheel and landed on New Nightmare. And Daegu, you could feel their players glance around, blinking like someone had just changed the difficulty settings mid-game. These weren't backups, they were just reinforcements. Within minutes, Barcelona were back to carving up the field. Dani Olmo immediately looked like he was late for a date with the final third. Tony Fernandez, fresh and fearless, started ghosting into pockets like he was born in them. And then it happened. Again. 54th minute. Boom. Goal number 4. It was such a neat, simple move, it could have been done in loafers. Olmo slides it through with the delicacy of a jewelry thief. Fernandez takes a touch and buries it low. No fuss, no fireworks. Just clinical. Like filing paperwork for a new identity. And that's when the match stopped being football and turned into performance art. Rashford started to loosen up, and with every touch you could feel the wind shift. There was one little run where he sliced through 2 defenders, like he was trimming hedges. He looked like a man trying to prove he belongs, and doing it by dismantling everything in front of him. 65th minute, the exhale. Rashford collects it from Eric Garcia, of all people, takes one step, then fires it from the edge of the box with that signature slingshot release. Right into the bottom corner. 5-0. And no celebration. Just a look. A glance toward the sideline like, you see that? It wasn't arrogance, it was punctuation. What followed was a flurry of everything but goals. 70 minutes onward was Barcelona casually turning Daegu into training cones. Bargi took a shot, Olmo had 3 saved, Rashford again from distance, Fernandez missing narrowly. Even Pedri got in on the action, testing Han Tae-hee with one of those curving shots that looks like it has ambition. Let's stop for a second and talk about Han Tae-hee. Because, yes, he conceded 5, but he also pulled off 7 saves that would have been goals on another day, against another team. It was a one-man sandbagging operation in a flood. The man was leaping, diving, clawing, and still, it was like trying to hold back a river with a sieve. There were moments, sure, where Daegu passed the ball like they meant it. A rare corner here, a speculative ball over the top there, but they couldn't keep the ball for more than 6 seconds. Every time they crossed the halfway line, it felt like an accident. By the 75th minute, Daegu were just making subs to stop the bleeding. They pulled Cezinha. They pulled the fullbacks. They pulled the plug on hope. Barcelona, meanwhile, made changes because they could. Flick threw in Cochin in goal, like, hey, why not let the kid get rained on too? And yet the pace didn't drop. Barcelona just kept swinging. Rooney Bargi nearly curled one into the bottom corner. Casado pinged a shot just wide. Rashford had one blocked, one deflected, one that would have burst the net if it had curled an inch more. They hit every part of the goal except the net, like it was some kind of twisted challenge. Even in the dying minutes, with the grass waterlogged and the tempo finally dipping, Pedri still forced a fingertip save. Olmo hit another stinger from the right. They weren't content. They wanted 6. They wanted 7. Or maybe they just liked the feeling of making Daegu chase ghosts. And then, insult to injury, Cubarsí gets knocked and has to be subbed out. Flick says it's just a knock, but it looked like even his knee got bored. As the final whistle blew, you could almost hear the collective sigh of relief from the stadium. Not because it was over, but because it was only 5. This was a footballing eulogy wrapped in a friendly. Barcelona didn't just win, they wandered into another country, soaked themselves in rain, and left footprints on the pitch like graffiti. It was ruthless without anger, sharp without malice, like watching a panther stretch. Beautiful, terrifying, inevitably dominant. Daegu never stood a chance. But they'll remember this. Not with fondness. More like the way you remember a nightmare that was too vivid to be fake. Let's talk about the cast. The soloists. The ensemble. The players who made this wet, 5-goal demolition feel less like a friendly and more like a ceremonial unveiling. And let's start with the boy prince. Gavi. Back in the lineup like he never left, and immediately playing like a caffeine-fueled wrecking ball wrapped in silk. His first goal was tidy, his second was smug, and in between he ran the midfield like someone trying to collect a debt. The man is 20 going on warlord. What's more infuriating is how easy he makes the hard stuff look. He doesn't sprint, he seethes forward. Like a flame pretending to be a breeze. The kid does not care that it's a preseason tour he's auditioning for Olympus. Then there's Lamine Yamal. Technically, he didn't score. But saying he didn't affect the game is like saying lightning didn't hit the tree. Just because the tree's still upright doesn't mean it didn't get lit on fire. The assists, the nutmegs, the curling shots, he was a menace without the paperwork. Daegu's defenders backed off him like he was radioactive. And even when his shots missed, they missed in a way that made you believe the goalpost had dodged. Robert Lewandowski? Pure efficiency. One touch, one chance, one goal, like someone on a strict schedule. He even missed one right before scoring, just to let the keeper feel useful before ending him. His movement was a masterclass in economy. 3 steps here, 2 glances there, and suddenly he's standing alone in the 6-yard box with the ball asking, "Shall we?" Rafinha was like a broken fire hydrant, spraying energy everywhere. Hit a few lasers, missed a few chances, smiled like a man who knew he wasn't staying long. He's always either about to create a moment of magic or set something on fire, and today was no different. Now let's get to the halftime switch squad. The underappreciated misfits. The new blood and new hopes. Marcus Rashford. Oh, sweet mercenary from Manchester. You land in Barcelona on loan, look slightly confused in training photos, and then step onto a soaked pitch in South Korea and score like you've been here since 2011. That strike from outside the box wasn't a goal. It was a declaration of intent. It said, "I'm not here to be a headline. I am the headline." He had at least 3 other chances too, gliding into the box, cutting in from the left. Every movement whispered danger. He looked liberated, and slightly smug, which is his best version. Tony Fernandez. Talk about a kid with confidence. Took his goal like he was asking for the bill after dinner. Calm, low, ruthless. But it wasn't just the finish. He was constantly in the mix. Smart positioning, fast decisions, and not afraid to call for the ball like a veteran. He looks like a long-term problem for a lot of teams. Dani Olmo. Maybe the smoothest operator on the pitch. Just glides. You blink and he's in behind the fullback. He had 2 or 3 shots saved, and every one of them required heroics. His assist to Tony was perfect. Rolled in like it had eyes. He's the kind of player who can seem invisible for 20 minutes, then suddenly he's dismantling your defense with a single touch. Rooney Bargi had fire. A couple long-range efforts that almost curled in. A few darting runs that left defenders twisting like wind chimes in a hurricane. You can tell he's still figuring out his place in this system, but the raw talent is volcanic. Every time he got the ball, he looked like he wanted to paint chaos. Pedri? Pedri was Pedri. Short touches, spinning out of pressure, cheeky through balls. He didn't light the pitch on fire, but he controlled the temperature like a thermostat. He might not have had a headline moment, but his fingerprints were on every calm passage of play in the second half. He's less fireworks, more tectonic shift. Eric Garcia deserves a weird little golf clap. That assist to Rashford wasn't just smart, it was self-aware. He knew exactly what Rashford wanted, where he'd be, and how to play it into his path with perfect weight. Otherwise, he was tidy. Calm. He even got a few overlaps in, just to confuse us all. Marc Casado. Big fan of chaos. Just crashes into tackles, starts fast breaks, and takes speculative shots that almost become legend. He's like a blender on cleats. Not always elegant, but never boring. Joan Garcia in goal had almost nothing to do, except for the occasional dramatic stare into the distance. Szczesny came on, and it was more of the same. Barcelona could have fielded a crash test dummy in goal and still kept a clean sheet. Pau Cubarsí looked sharp before the knock. Quick to step out, aggressive in the duels. Shame he had to come off, but nothing about his play suggested he's lost a step. His replacement, Hector Fort, wasn't tested, mostly stood around like a mall cop during a ghost town shift. And let's not forget the Rain MVP. Han Tae-hee. Daegu's goalkeeper. Yeah, he conceded 5, but he also pulled off save after save that belonged in an Oscar-nominated documentary with voiceover narration and melancholy string music. He's the reason this game didn't turn into a statistical hate crime. He's the guy who wrestled a bear for 90 minutes with a toothpick and still walked away. Respect. As for Daegu's outfield players, let's just say they'll be washing cleat marks off their shins for a week. Sasinga tried. Giovanni tried. A few defenders threw themselves in front of shots like extras in a medieval battle scene. But this wasn't about them. This was Barcelona's stage. A play with 5 acts, performed with elegance, precision, and a faint hint of menace. And what stuck out the most wasn't the scoreline. It was the control, the casual superiority, the sense that Barcelona didn't just win. They reminded everyone what happens when their machine hums. They're not at full throttle yet. But if today was the dress rehearsal, the real show's going to be terrifying. This has been Across the Pitch. Over and out.